My name's Bob McIlvaine, and we'll be talking this afternoon about relevant market shares for valve companies in the worldwide valve industry. Understanding the relevant market shares is important for a number of different reasons. And if you're selling, buying, seeking organic growth or higher profits, the knowledge of valve company market shares is important. If you're selling a company in general, another valve company with synergisms will pay more for a valve supplier than will a private equity investor. This continuing analysis of market shares is a good way to select potential acquirers. Buying. The analysis of market shares is very important to a valve company who is looking to buy other valve companies. This analysis should really just be the starting point. Market shares by specific product, process, industry, and location are each significant. While market share for all valves in Asia is part of the report, it is possible to expand this to market shares just for turbine bypass valves for coal-fired power plants in India. It's important for organic growth. Sales are not made in a vacuum. You've got competitors. Expanding sales means taking share away from some of the existing suppliers. So a market share analysis is the starting point and also a continuing effort. The competitor share knowledge is important for many throughout the organization, including the local salesperson. As competitors merge and gain share, it is important to track these changes. Higher profits. The number one and two suppliers in a given market have potential for higher profits due to efficient use of resources. Analyzing the profitability of competitors provides insights on how to raise profits. The starting point is market shares. A new concept entitled market share hierarchy analysis provides a unique route to obtaining accurate and relevant share information. The basic report provides market shares for 140 valve suppliers. This continually updated database and analysis is part of Industrial Valves World Markets. It features continuous updating for the next 12 months, expansion of numbers of companies on a continuing basis, and unique accuracy due to the market share hierarchy analysis. And you see on the right here that we have worldwide shares for each of these 140 companies. It's important to evaluate market shares in important segments of the market. For those people making choke valves, and it's a relatively small number, these are relatively expensive valves and unique valves. So the market share has to be viewed in terms of these few companies. And analysis of each of these companies is something that has been and can be, it has been done and can be updated. Other examples would be turbine bypass valves, anti-surge valves, line valves for chemical applications, molecular sieve switching valves in the oil and gas industry, gate valves for 5,000 psi in oil and gas, rising stem ball valves in a number of applications, butterfly valves for biopharmaceutical closed systems, a very special application, and aseptic valves for juice manufacturing, for instance. Market shares can also be viewed from the standpoint of the process. In every one of the industries, you have intake water, you've got cooling, you've got steam, you've got process applications, and you have wastewater. And in many cases, the market shares in the process are distinct with a different group of competitors than there would be for the steam or for the water or wastewater. Generally, the processes would be where the unique market shares are required. When it comes to steam, it may be better to look at multiple industries and the steam application than it is just the steam application in one industry. That's not true of the process. Market shares can be, by valve type, can be ascertained for each major purchaser. The valve report already provides forecasts for ADM and Anheuser-Busch and so forth, but just for the 100 top purchasers. This can be expanded to the 1,000 top purchasers. And it can be done in each one of these different industries. There is a particular need in many cases to view the markets in a particular country. India is a fast-growing country, and here are market shares of valves for a number of Indian companies. The Industrial Valves World Markets provides forecasts for 13 different industries in 80 countries and sub-regions. There is further segmentation by 7 types of isolation and 7 types of control valves. These forecasts are updated continually during the year. Excel spreadsheets are supplied along with online displays, and the Excel spreadsheets have up to 50,000 forecasts. Valve purchases for the top 100 customers are also included in Excel spreadsheets. And along with this are the market shares for the 140 valve companies. And these market shares are updated on a running 12-month basis. This is the starting point for market shares in specific niches. Now, if you wanted to dive deeper into the food market, you can do so by edible oils or sugar or any of these other areas. And in some cases, like edible oils, we have edible oil forecasts, production in tons for each type of oil, whether it's palm, corn, or otherwise vegetable oils in every country of the world, and information on the plants as well. And the same thing can be done for cane sugar. And with the case of cane sugar, you've got bagasse as an additional valve use. And so you've got the bagasse combustion and scrubbers and the whole processing of bagasse at all these cane sugar plants, in addition to processing the sugar itself. The chemical industry has a number of different applications, and so it is possible to view some of these specifically. There's, for instance, for plastic-lined ball valves, plastic-lined valves, ball and otherwise. There's some very distinct markets and a relatively small number of companies that provide PFA-lined valves for these applications. And it is often appropriate to view their market shares if you're in that business. Power is divided into a number of different areas, of which coal is only one, but coal is the largest area and will continue to be so. The 15 largest power producers buy more than 50% of the valves. There are only 900 power producers with more than 1,000 megawatts of capacity. Shenhua Godian has 200,000 megawatts of capacity. So obviously, it's a very concentrated market. It's possible to get a very accurate determination of future valve sales by a market share hierarchy. And what we mean there is you have to take each sequence and then look at the choice and the alternative. In the case of GDP, if you're going to be looking at power plant pumps, it's how how much is going to be of GDP is going to be spent on new power in a country, and then how much is going to be spent on fossil, and then how much is going to be spent on coal, and whether those coals will have high sulfur or low sulfur, and then and whether they're going to need SO2 removal. If they need SO2 removal, are they going to use wet or are they going to use dry techniques? If they're going to use wet techniques, are they going to use limestone or are they going to use ammonia or MgO? The limestone requires a much bigger investment in FGD pumps. And even there, if you take the spray tower, you're going to spend twice as much for pumps as if you use a tray tower. So the knowledge of these processes and the analysis of these processes makes it very desirable to utilize and to get much more accurate information, not only about the present, but the future as well. In the case of the valves for FGD, you can see in this analysis that we've taken it through the hierarchy, and you start with a $70 billion valve market, of which 5,500 is going to be valves is for coal-fired power, 400 million for SO2, 350 million for wet SO2, 300 for wet limestone, 160 just for new, as opposed to replace and repair of 140. And then of the new, the spray tower, because it is more popular and because it uses much more slurry, is the dominant market. And the same on the repair, where you've got 115 million versus 25 million for your tray towers. The metals industry is spread throughout the world with hundreds of various niche applications. There are many big applications, for instance, in the steel industry and big steel companies like Metal, which has plants all over the world, although the decision-making tends to be made in Belgium. For many fabrication plants, you just have lubrication and cooling applications, and so there are thousands of those plants, and that may dictate special analysis. And so the petrochemical industry is another application. In that application, you have a lot of activity going on presently with hydraulic fracturing and ethane production, where there's a big market to take advantage of this inexpensive feedstock for the production of ethylene. In the U.S., in the Marcellus Shale region particularly, one alternative is the gasification of coal, which is quite popular in China. And this source is already the source of the feedstock for 25% of the petrochemicals in China. Mining is used in, valves are used in many mining applications for the extraction, processing, and ore transport. MoGas sponsors the HPAL, high pressure acid leaching conference, and it furthers its leadership in this one valve niche, which is a very corrosive, very abrasive application. Markets vary considerably depending on the ore in the country. For instance, in Chile, a large portion of the world's copper is produced. In Australia, has both lithium as well as iron ore. The mining market is concentrated in terms of companies with only about 50 companies with most of the valve purchases. Oil and gas is a large market for valves, and it warrants segmentation and even sub-segmentation. For instance, LNG pumps are used in liquefaction, they're used in the transport vessels, and then in the regasification. Special analyses are available for choke valves, molecular sieve switching, and other challenging processes. Subsea valves have high pressure and other unique requirements. Coal to chemicals is another growing market in Asia. Recycled pulp using de-inking and processing of scrap paper is a growing segment of the market as opposed to virgin pulp. Wood chips are being supplied for use in plants switching from coal to renewable fuels. Environmentalists are saying that this approach sucks the CO2 out of the air and see the planting of 1 trillion trees as the solution to greenhouse gas emissions. And part of that is the burning and then sequestration of the biomass gas. The black liquor recovery boiler is a challenging valve application in this industry. The biopharmaceuticals is a growing portion of the pharmaceutical industry, which can be subsegmented into biopharm and other applications. Closed systems in biopharm require special butterfly valves to allow safe transfer for a product from one process to another. Relatively few producers buy most of the valves. Some of the market is now small cell therapy facilities making very expensive drugs. The trend toward prefabricated facilities means that companies such as Danaher now can supply a plant on a trailer complete with installed valves and accelerate the time from order to plant operation for a new biopharmaceutical plant. This is critical due to the limited time until patents expire. This approach shifts some of the valve decision-making to the system supplier and away from the operator. Thank you for your attention today, and this is Bob McIlvaine, who would be very glad to answer any of your questions, and you can reach me at 847-226-2391.